G'day everyone, I thought I'd just do a quick video on the first guitar pedal that I built, and I'm actually going to turn it on and see if it still works because I haven't used it for years, so I wonder if it's actually still functioning. It's the NPN Booster, the do-it-yourself stomp box NPN Booster. It's the very first pedal that I built, as I said, and it's exactly how I built it. I haven't changed anything in it, I haven't redone anything. I've deliberately left it this way because sometimes I just like to look at it just to remind me that, of the progress that I've made, it's just, and the mistakes that I made with the first build as well. It's just interesting to see, and also just looking at the inside, the soldering's terrible, which is another thing that you get better at. I thought it might be interesting if you're starting a new pedal, or if you're just curious to see where I started with the NPN Booster. That was probably about 5 or 6 years ago now. So some of the things that I did wrong. The first thing is the DC jack. I've used a metal DC jack, and if you don't know, the DC jack, the Boss style DC jack, actually has the positive on the barrel, but these metal enclosures are grounded, so if you plug in a positive, if you touch positive with negative, you get a lot of sparks and you don't get any power to your effect. So you have to actually isolate that, and I use this grommet to isolate the DC jack, and they are just so unreliable doing it that way. You put the you plug in, like 50 times or 10 times, and it starts to push the DC jack back out. You can see that on the inside. I'll just show you. There's just so much electrical tape, you just can't even see it. We'll get to that, but yeah, it just pushes it out from the other side. So don't use metal DC jacks. I'll see if I can find one, and just so you know what I'm talking about. So that's the jack that I was talking about with the metal outside. So the metal outside is positive, and when you insert it into the pedal, it touches the enclosure, and you create a short between plus and minus, and then you don't get any power to your effect. So do not use that type of DC jack. Unless you're using a plastic enclosure, you can use them, but for a metal enclosure, don't use them. You shouldn't use a plastic enclosure anyway for a guitar pedal. There's too much interference, RF interference. So that's the type that you want to use, the one with the plastic thread. And you can just type in Boss DC jack in eBay, you get 1 million hits. Tater have them, Future, I'm pretty sure, have them, Pedal Parts Australia have them, Small Bear has them, all the pedal suppliers have them, and that's the type that you want. With the paint job, it actually looks pretty good. I'm actually really impressed with how I've actually painted this on the first try. I've had issues with enamel paint, and I ended up just getting turned off it totally, but this just got such an even, flat finish. I don't even know how I managed to do it. I did prime the first one, so I had enough sense to actually prime it. You can see there's grey on the inside. Not quite sure why there's blue lines everywhere on the inside. I can't even remember why I did that. But I did prime it, but I actually primed the entire inside of the enclosure because I actually thought that you had to isolate I'm pretty sure I was having issues with probably something that was totally unrelated, and I thought that maybe the potentiometer, the metal parts of the potentiometer, the switch, or the jacks were causing the issue, and also that DC jack that I just mentioned. I think I tried to isolate it with primer, didn't work, yeah, I just ended up having a whole bunch of issues. You don't have to prime the inside of the enclosure like I've done here. It's meant to be ground, and you're just not meant to touch it with anything else. I mean, I'll show you one that I'm working on at the moment, which is a tone bender. I haven't primed the inside of that, and nothing's touching the enclosure that shouldn't be touching it. You can prime the inside if you want, but if you know what you're doing, you'll end up getting to the point where you don't prime the inside. And also, if you do prime the inside, these jacks have to actually touch the enclosure as well. So you're going to have to sort of scratch away around where the input and the output jacks are, just to make sure that they're making a connection, because the shield runs through the enclosure, as I've mentioned it a number of times before. Check out that soldering on that 3-pole double throw. I haven't even gone through the eye. I must have made a mistake and couldn't get the solder out of the the opening of the lug, that center lug I'm talking about there. I'm not sure if you can see it on the enclosure, but I've just stuck the wire on the side of the lug. That's bad soldering. I often didn't think that I was making much progress with soldering, but geez, when I look back at this thing, yeah, I sure have. And on those lugs too, that's terrible. I've put a piece of cardboard and tape on the back of the Vero, on the back of the massively oversized Vero. This circuit is so small, and let's see if I can get in there and show you what it looks like. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see in there, but yeah, that's just terrible. Look at that, it's hanging off the top. Oh, there's bits of electrical tape everywhere. Yeah, it's pretty bad. But I mean, if you're new, again, if you're new to guitar pedals, this is a perfect example of some things that you should look out for and try and improve on straight up instead of going down the path that I have. I've actually just noticed that I've used it looks like a dual gang potentiometer. I don't know why the hell I've used a dual gang. It must have been the only value that the local electronics shop had. That's the next lesson. Make sure you get the right parts. I've just gone for any old, like, I didn't know about FutureLec or any of these other online stores, and I just figured that JCar was the way to go. But if you look online, you'll get the exact. Usually, most retailers have everything that you need, and you can just order it all in one hit, have all the right components, and then not end up doing this ridiculousness like I've done with this dual gang potentiometer. I'm only using one half of the dual gang potentiometer. It just takes up too much room. I've had to flatten all the components on the top to actually make sure that it actually fits with the lid on. Speaking of fitting, I've put the 3-pole double throw in the wrong spot. You can't fit a battery below it, and I found, and this moves on to the next issue. I found that this circuit had so much mains hum, but at the time I didn't realise what mains hum was. I didn't have a clue what mains hum was, and I spent so much time trying to debug a problem that just wasn't there. So I ended up soldering a battery snap-on to test, and I found that the battery didn't make the noise, whereas the power supply did make the noise. And long story short, it was a hard lesson to learn, but yeah, it was mains hum that the noise was. So this pedal is pretty much useless, because unless you use a battery, you're going to get a hell of a lot of noise through it, and yeah, unless you want the battery to hang off the side, you know. So there's another issue with the build. So I might just plug this in and actually see if it works. I'm predicting that there's probably going to be something inside that's not quite right, or touching, or grounded, or something like that. And I'm not even sure if it's gonna work, to be honest. But I thought, you know, it might be interesting to see if it does, and have a listen to it. So I'll plug it in, and yeah, we'll see what it sounds like, if it sounds like anything at all. So like I said, this isn't staged. I have not touched this pedal for years, and I don't even know if it's going to work, but if it doesn't work, I might see if I can get it going quickly. And yeah, it's exactly how I made it 5 or 6 years ago. So let's just test the clean channel first. I think it's helps if you turn the amp up. Oh, clean channel works. Alright, here we go, moment of truth. Oh, it works. It actually works. My son's actually asleep, so I'm not going to crank it up too much, but it does work. How's that? That's amazing. So there you go, that's the do-it-yourself stomp box NPN Booster. It's called the NPN Booster because it's got an NPN transistor in it. I put a socket on it so I could change the transistor, and I did actually find there's a bit of a difference between the different transistors, and it was an excellent first build. I didn't like the Vero layout though. That was that made things probably harder than they had to be, because I was really bad, as you saw with soldering. I was very bad with soldering. Something that was fabricated would have been better. So that's why I reckon if you're going to start a first build, even like a Mad Bean Slam box, which is the SHO boost, get a fabricated board from Mad Bean, and you won't have as many solder problems for your first build as I did with this one with the Vero. So yeah, I just thought I'd take a trip down memory lane with that one, and I'm surprised it still works. That's great. I'm really happy with that. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.